Hi, Trond.
Hello.
Yeah, so it's my big pleasure to interview you. And the first question is, what is good music composition for you, right? What is your personal, let's say, perspective on what is good music for you?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big opening question. But I was a little prepared because I saw this is your first question for this whole series. But I mean, it's super difficult. Good composition. I mean, it's a little bit like looking for criteria in a way. And I'm a little skeptical to this, to try to kind of point out certain things that need to be or should be, or it's good to be in a composition. I mean, it's a little more chaotic for me than that. In a sense, I'm extremely simple and easy to please, because if I sense there are some kind of energy in a piece or in a person, I enjoy it, I like it. If it's something that's just strange, I also like it. But of course, I mean, there are some works where you really get excited, and maybe it has to do. Maybe I really appreciate composers and pieces of music where I have a feeling it's kind of where kind of a new world is created somehow. It's a little big big words here, but if you it's unique in a way that it's some kind of new logic that you didn't really understood have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe something like this.
And do you remember which was the last piece which you would which creates this new word for you, right? Feeling of new word.
Well, I sit a lot here in my favorite chair here in Sweden, where I live most of the time, and I mean, I use a lot of time to listen to pieces. Of course, when I sit here, I don't listen so much to premieres and these things, but I mean, just a few days ago, I rediscovered, let's say, a piece by the German composer, which I really value, Matthias Spalinger, his big orchestra piece, Passage. I mean, it's a super complex piece. It's also as a kind of clarity to it also. And there are I mean, for me, very unexpected formal things that's happening. But still, in a way, I sat there with the feeling that this is the Mozart of our time, because it's some kind of sensibility for timing and change, when it should change, and how big it should change, how big leaps you can do, how surprising you can be, which in his case is very surprising things comes up. I mean, yeah, that was the first thing I came up with now.
And how would you describe your own music, right?
It's also my favorite question, for everyone. It's not so easy to kind of reduce your own thing a little bit to some statements. I mean, at least 20 years ago, I kind of decided, more or less consciously, I think consciously, that I'm going to work in all genres or all art forms. I will consider music or a composition as a kind of interdisciplinary activity, or even Samtkunstwerk activity, to relate to the Wagnerian tradition. So already then I started to perform myself, often speaking in my own pieces, kind of doing kind of live analysis sometimes for the pieces, to kind of include the discussion about music into the music itself. And I guess this was part somehow of let's call it a kind of institutional critique approach. I was inspired by visual art and certain artists there that really used art as a way of exploring power structures in the art system and in the world, of course, and also using myself and be critical to my own role as a composer in relation to musicians, in relation to festivals, in relation to commissions, etc. So I was doing this word and I liked some of the pieces I made then, but I think it came to a kind of a let's call it a crisis where I was a little I felt it was a little impotent to kind of just criticize everything. So then I had this kind of, let's call it a solution to form my own institution. Yeah. So then I made what I called the Norwegian opera, with a spelling mistake, which is anyway, it's this house where I'm sitting now, where I can paint the walls as I wanted. The whole thing could be a kind of scenography, and in the cellar we started making films. Later, and so this is kind of grown to be a rather big universe with a specific narrative in some kind of music theater, a little weird kind of music theater style. I don't know.
Yes.
where everything is pre-produced, or all the music is produced by myself, and also it's sung by myself and pitched a little up and down to have different characters. So it's a kind of really low budget homemade opera house, but then now I also have a crew who works hard at some things. And yeah, that's a too long answer, I guess, but yeah.
Right. And what is your way of composing music, right? How you start and what kind of stages you go through?
So because of this self-created situation where I am kind of the opera director and also producing it myself, I also, in a way, it gives me a kind of freedom, so I can plan the projects relatively freely. So I would say I work very long term. And so it really goes through, I mean, I really work with a text edit or a Word file for a long time, in a very stupid way, just writing ideas and just words and notions. And very slowly I start to kind of believe in these initial concepts, ideas. And then I slowly work out the rest, and then it can be different speeds in a way. Sometimes I work slowly, and even with score and these things. Sometimes I really just take the microphone and work a lot with editing and post-producing. Yeah, so it's different approaches.
Yes.
But I work a lot in kind of Pro Tools in mixing programs. So this has kind of become my instrument number one, I guess.
And if you would write, so you're living in Scandinavia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say we can say that you're a Scandinavian composer.
Sure.
And can you imagine how would be your music if you would live, for example, in Berlin or in, I don't know, United States? Would it be different?
I lived in Berlin for periods, up to 1 year, and I mean, I'm a little bit attached to the German world, I guess. I perform there relatively often. And I must admit, I really, I mean, this was for a long time, I mean, the main reference, I guess, the kind of German tradition.
Yes.
And maybe kind of because let's say I come from the provinces of new music, like Norway. So in a way, I kind of consciously overplayed a little bit this connection with the, let's say, European German tradition. So I mean, of course, my opera house is a little bit an analogy to Bayreuth by Wagner, and kind of putting myself as a kind of opera director for a while. Now it's the last years, it's been a little more, my face is not really part of the pieces anymore. We use masks and these kind of things. And it's not, it's more kind of a very, very fictional world. But yeah, I learned German, as I mean, half good, relatively early. So I was always orienting myself to the discourse in German Zeitschriften und so weiter, to read about, yeah. So I got a lot of my impulses from there, from a relatively early stage.
Yes, and what kind of impulses you got from Scandinavia, right?
Ah, Scandinavia, it's a strange place. Have you ever heard about it?
Yes, a bit, yes.
Well, it's and it's also kind of different. Now I'm in Sweden. The Norwegian Opera is located in Sweden now because it's cheaper houses, at least in this area. It's what they call the problem area in Sweden, because it's but it's possible even for me to buy a villa here and a barn and a meadow where we build also. But I come from Norway. And I mean, also the different Scandinavian countries are, well, they have their own characteristics. I would say Norway is kind of the smallest, with not such, let's say, developed discourse about new music. On the other hand, it's possibilities. It's a kind of naivete that I actually love. I think it's possible to do crazy things here. The bad thing is that nobody really cares, either positively or negatively, or well, it doesn't really. I don't know. But anyway, it's if you kind of let's say use the system as creatively as you can, it's really possible to do things. And I think at the moment it's a great milieu for new music. A lot of actually, I think it's a lot of interesting people working here now.
Good. And if you would be female, your music would be different.
Oui, I am female. This I don't know. You mean biologically, or?
Yes, biologically.
I think it's still research to be done on this field. I mean, it's all my characters in the operas are kind of without sex or without gender.
Yes.
Or I hope so.
Yes.
So I got a reaction after one theatrical performance we had. Actually, it was only men in the crew then.
Yes.
And one reaction from one audience member was, "I love the 8 women, the choir of the 8 women." So that then I was happy with that, because they apparently didn't really get that it was male. I don't know. I maybe of course it's certain things that were easy because I was a male. It's kind of easy to identify with this very male-oriented tradition. I really try to overplay it, I guess, as I said, with kind of playing kind of a kind of parody of a male Wagner for our time, in a way.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know if that was an answer.
Yes. You said, right, that that some years ago you made decision, and you made decision to be, let's say, intermediate artist or intermediate composer.
Yeah.
And do you remember what was the trigger? Why? What triggered you to make this decision?
I don't. I remember kind of the first piece. I would say that was. I mean, I had a kind of, let's say, the intermediate piece or interstage.
Yes.
Halfway through it. It was not spectacular in any way. It was a big sinfonetta piece. Because before I was really into, I mean, hardcore modernism, into algorithmic composition, serialism even.
Yes, yes.
Making systems. I was programming composition programs for myself. But in a piece like this, I decided to ask myself what is the most opposite situation of this, and I had no better idea than to just take the microphone while I was drunk and screaming on the street of Oslo, blah, blah. And then I just cut it in very, let's say, brutally into this kind of very different musical logic. And I mean, it was not spectacular, but for me, it was kind of, it's kind of open up because everything is, maybe then everything is possible. And then the next piece was really a multimedia piece. It was a choir piece, but then I included video and live video. I also performed myself from the wardrobe. I was doing kind of a manifesto for the piece, inside the piece itself. And I asked for some theatrical things, which they, well, so then I think it was that I really wanted to discuss things in music, that I wanted to open up for the world. I did kind of interviews with all the choir singers, what party they voted for, what music they love, do they actually love new music? And I had this, diagrams that was projected. So it was kind of way to kind of also tell a story about the musicians while you heard the music. So it was, I mean, it was really an attempt to kind of open up the world of music as far as possible to political things, to historical things, to institutional critique things like this.
Got it. And what's the difference, right? When you compose this, as you said, hardcore algorithmic, let's say post Second War avant-garde, right, music, and which is sound only music, let's say, right, and this intermedia or multimedia music. What it requires from composer, right?
Yeah, I guess it requires different things, and it requires very different things from the audience as well, which is hard because I feel myself that I never kind of left totally, let's say, this way of compose. I mean, it's always there. I feel maybe it's not so easy to hear or see it, but this kind of systematic composing is very often there. I mean, some parts are kind of programmed by computers. Some things are really relating to modernist tradition in a way. But then, of course, on top, it's the kind of kitsch aspects and half 80s pop music and just performance kind of things. And to jump between this is, of course, very hard for the audience as well, because you have to change your expectations and the way of percepting. But of course, this interests me a lot. I mean, what kind of contract you make with the listener when you build a piece. Yeah. Maybe I should use an example. I made a piano concerto. It's called The Theory of the Subject. Long, 70 minutes, includes video and a lot of things. It starts with something that's actually a quotation from a Maoist piano concerto, so it's tonal. So it's kind of strange beginning. I mean, if you come and are expecting a new music piece, you think that's strange, but then it comes kind of explanations, projected text, the historical background and why this is quoted and blah blah. So already then it's kind of a change in the medium of music, or the art medium that I'm using. So going from, of course, in the beginning you listen and okay, here's melodies and blah blah. What is maybe I should try to remember this theme or something like that. But then this text comes, and then okay, I have to read and maybe think conceptually somehow, and what kind of ideas are in play here. So I mean, this really interests me to kind of change kind of different levels, different medial situations, or different interdisciplinary situations that are different, that comes after each other.
Yes. And do you remember the first pieces, right? When you compose and when you perform, how easy it was to establish this contract with audience, right?
It was
or how audience perceived, right, at that time.
Yeah, well, I think I'm sometimes very direct. I kind of look into the camera and with a microphone and kind of tell them. I mean, that's one approach, really listen for this, So this is a very banal but a very effective way of kind of let's say preparing the audience, or prepared piano, prepared audience, that really to kind of try to mold the audience, and I mean manipulate it a little bit also. I think the audience are very aware that I attempt to manipulate it, so I also like this double thing. I think, I mean, from the piece that I was mentioning, I try to be really to make the situations extremely clear sometimes. Really big letters. Now this is going on, or in the microphone. Now next part of the piece comes. Things like this.
Got it. And yeah. And what is biggest difference, right? I have before that question. What you do on your own, right? So you shot video. Do you edit video? Do you add music? Do you code softwares, right? What is, let's say, your skill set of contemporary or new music and composer?
Yeah, it's true. I do a lot of things, but I think my and even compared to a lot of my colleagues of the same age and the younger colleagues, I think I'm extremely involved in classical music. Actually, I was a performer, a singer for. I studied before I studied composition, and I worked in a professional sextet for 19 years. Yes. So I have and was touring a lot and doing a lot of premieres and a lot of old music. And I'm really attached to classical music, and I do all the time do these projects. I recently listened to analyzed all the Haydn symphonies. It's quite a lot, so I have this very nerdy side. And I think that's my main skill, but it's true. I did a lot, and I was interested in theater for relatively early, and then I worked directly with theater, and had that had a very big influence on me also. I mean, when I was living in Berlin, I was very, let's say, inspired by the Berlin theater scene at Volksbühne and these kind of things. It was kind of very expressionistic, chaotic style of theater that I really loved, and that I didn't see any parallel in contemporary music so much. So I really was searching for this crazy energy. I mean, my skill, but and of course now I do, and I do the paintings
Yes,
here.
yeah.
It's amateurish, but like somehow I decided that I can do it, or I will do it. I demand to do it, and but I mean, my skill is that I think I have some kind of basic
Yes,
musicality.
Do you shoot videos? Do you edit videos on your own, or you ask somebody?
Yes, I do it on my own, but also I have a group now. I would say it's kind of, let's say, 7 people that are in the base into this group. And yeah, sometimes I shoot, sometimes other people shoot. I mean, if you look, I mean, it's not professional.
Yes.
And I also didn't really want it, I think. I mean, a lot of the films we did in the cellar here, it's called Ø, the series is called Ø.
Yes.
And this one letter, one Norwegian letter. It's a lot of episodes, and there we have a kind of dogma. It's always one shot, so it's no cutting, no editing.
Got it.
And sometimes it's almost an hour, so it can be really long take. So it's really kind of theater energy, and it's a lot of things that has to not go wrong because the things will fall apart and these things. And then of course the camera. Yeah, it's hard work to do the camera then. But I do what I do is I make kind of let's call it director's score or audio score that I record instructions both for the actors and for the camera and the person who does the camera. So I can say kind of in 2 seconds you should move the camera to Trond, and so we can really do it quite precisely.
Good.
It's chaos, but suddenly it's kind of precise things as well. So this is kind of a method that I've used. But I did all these things more or less amateurish myself.
Yes. Did you code as well, software?
Yeah. But I'm not getting better. I have to always go a little back and repeat.
Got it.
And I first programmed in C and then in Perl, but now I'm doing Python.
Yes. Yes. Right. And looking back, because you're multimedia composer, right? And this, let's say, I would say, early generation of multimedia composers. What was looking back? What was let's say, at that moment, crucial skill set, right? Because not everybody can create multimedia music. What was the crucial skill set, right? Just to start doing to start creating this music.
I didn't understand this. Could you say it one?
Yes.
One more time?
So what was looking back, right, for your own like perspective? What was at that moment crucial skill set, right? For compose, yes, skills to start creating multimedia music, right?
Courage, naivete, to be naive.
Yes.
Well, certain joy in performing for my sake. I used to be a singer, as I said, so I was half used to looking audience in the eyes and
yes.
Yeah, I think that that's for me, that was maybe the main yeah. I mean, of course it's it happened in all arts, or most arts, like in visual art, it's very interdisciplinary from a long time, and then maybe kind of the skills or whatever you call it is maybe a little different from the composer skills, and maybe it's at least a skill for having interesting concepts or doing research, maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
Things like for a composer. I mean, I know some composers that work in, let's say, in this field of interdisciplinarity. I'm losing my voice now. Just a moment. Oh, I think it will be fine. I'm not used to speaking here in the forest, you know. So
Right.
I was going to say, some people that kind of work in this interdisciplinary musical field tend to think about this as just an expansion of, let's say, material. And I think also Maurizio Kagel has some formulations that now you can compose with not only notes, but with the colors, with buses, with tables, with cups. But I think I'm a little different. I really hope or wish to really somehow be interdisciplinary, that you really kind of understand or accept or respect that it's a kind of different art form, that you have to go into it, to the materiality of a different art form, let's say with both feet or something like this, instead of just allowing yourself to make a score and you have one line with oboes and one line with light, say. Yes. You kind of then compose intermedia. But I really I want something more material in I mean, ideally. So I'm really looking for what the kind of I find that I have this fetish for clay or earth, and on the meadow that we work, it's clay in the earth. So it's really, this will be very important for my future. It's work with clay. Yes. And just it's also very mythological material, you know, because in a lot of mythologies, it's kind of what creates the human being, and also, I mean, concretely also, or historically, it's the first writing that we know of. It's made on clay. It's signs on clay. So yeah, so just these things, to instead of just having clay in the score, I want to kind of have a strong connection with the material clay. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, got it. But it requires completely another approach. So you need to start with very heavy research or
yeah. Yes, and yeah, and of course it's a little different way of using your time. Of course, I mean. Also, like most composers, I use most of my time on the shitty computer and just, as I said, just working with text files, working with mixing programs, making notes also, or score also. But also a lot of time I used to build scenography and to build houses and dig canals.
Yes.
And then things like this. Yeah.
Yes. So it's would it be correctly said that that your way of composing transform from sound only composer to, let's say, more composer director, right? At least in perspective of theater, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I think my method, let's say, theatrical method, it's not usual in theater. I mean, it's very composer-like. I have almost no rehearsals.
Yes.
Because everything is so pre-planned, and everyone gets instructions on their ears. Yes. So in this, it's very, you know, like a composer, I have total control in a way. Yes. Although it looks very chaotic sometimes, it's really structured to the second. And I mean, so yeah, it's both. I think I've expanded my the composition to also include directing and the building and these kind of things. But my kind of background, you're asking about skills. I think it comes from a composer's brain. I think musician's brain.
Right, and you said about methods, and before you said there are some rules, right, in the methods for it, like dogma. You said shot one time, right? What are those? Maybe okay. What are the basic principles of your method, right?
I think one dogma, or it's not a dogma, but it's anti-dogma. It's everything. It's I try to play a little Mahler. You know, I want the piece to be a world or include the whole world. So I mean, nothing is illegal in terms of styles and different traditions. And that also, I mean, it came at a certain point in my career or my development that I just decided that it doesn't make sense for me anymore to be strict, to have a kind of closed world, sound world. Somehow I really wanted to go in all directions, but still somehow have coherence on some level. So that was an anti-dogma. Everything is allowed. I mean, kind of a dogma for the opera series is that I play or everything is pre-produced from the computer. Everything is MIDI instruments. I sing everything myself and pitch it, so it's kind of really one man orchestra opera house. Yeah, everything is playback. Yeah, maybe it's more. Yeah.
And what kind of technologies or technological artifact you use the most? An artifact, it could be hardware or it could be software. Or
yeah, I use Pro Tools a lot. So this is my this is what I learned, so I used it all the time. And I mean, like everyone, I try to use it as an instrument and see what's possible, and really the activity of editing is really essential for composing. I mean, the crazy power you have that you can move things and make illusions of things that happened, and I can edit so that I can be a very virtuoso singer by speeding it up. I mean, very simple things, but to work with it dramaturgically or compositionally. As I said, I compose. I make my own programs a little bit to do kind of variation techniques and this kind of old things.
yes.
What else? Yeah. Well, I think that's. I mean, yeah, Final Cut for the video, and yeah.
And how your music changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's 10 years. It's I think it's almost when I bought this house. So that was a big personal step. It was kind of, I mean, again, I can overplay it a little bit, but it was also a kind of psychological thing. It's just kind of a solitary thing to go away from the city, go away from the festival, being able to make a system here for myself, production system. I'm independent somehow, self-sufficient, art production. Yeah, so that was a big change, I guess, but I'm still doing other pieces.
Yes, and how it impact your music? Can you?
I mean, what I was hoping it was that it would allow for a bigger freedom. That it was a little, yeah. I mean that at least ideally it was nobody influencing what I did. I can really, from every day, I can really decide for myself what music should be, and what kind of medium I work in, and these kind of things. So well, that was the aim, to have
Yes.
I think a lot of art has to do with a discussion about freedom. It's
Yes.
impossible quest, of course, but it's I think it's a deep longing
Yes.
in a human.
And did it play as buying the house? Did it play like you wanted? You got some more freedom, or?
I think so, yeah. But maybe I also, got self-satisfied somehow. I don't know. Well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
I think, I'm getting old also now, maybe I start to work a little slower than before. I'm wondering, maybe I started postponing things, which I never did before.
Yes.
But I work with a really big production now, but I had to shoot it in 1 more year into the future. But it will be a kind of 6-7 hour
Good. Okay.
opera here, outside here, and in the houses here. So yeah, so it will take a little time. I found out it took a little time to compose it.
Got it. And what do you fear as composers the most?
As a human being, I fear that it stops, that the head stops somehow, that I don't get ideas, or maybe more that I don't get energy somehow.
Yes.
And I guess I go a little up and down in my energy levels. But so it goes like this a little bit, but I fear that it stays down there.
Yes.
And then it's it's horrible. Then I sit here with all my CDs and scores, and what to do.
Do you have some nervous feeling before world premieres?
Yeah, I'm in panic. Also, while composing, I can be in half panic, half a year before the premiere. Really, is this does it make sense what I'm doing now? And yeah, I'm driven by panic. So when the panic stops, maybe my composition.
Okay, got it. Good. So you need this constant feeling of urge, right?
Well, at least that's my experience, and it's dangerous. It's not good for the head. So maybe that's also why it's getting a little slower now, because my body recognizes this feeling now. So my body doesn't really want to get into this panic mode.
Yes, yes.
But my experience is that I need it, because it's also serious things that we're doing. It's
yes.
has to do with the world and what it is to be human, and if you feel you're doing too small things, I just
yes,
I get in a total panic.
Got it. But right, you purposely create a situation when you artist, right? So you need that, right? This feeling of panic, so that the questioning yourself, right?
Yeah, it comes by itself. If the deadline is there, it comes. I think.
Okay.
That's my experience. But I'm doing pieces kind of on the side, which I do for pleasure somehow.
Yes.
But I'm not sure yet if it has this. Hopefully it will be my late style, as they talk about in Beethoven late style, Liszt late style. I hope my late style will be more relaxed way of composing. So I'm starting a big kind of series of pieces now that I just do without a plan for performance and these things. And let's see what becomes of that.
Got it. And why do you still compose? Why do you still compose?
Yeah, in a way, I don't know anything else. This has become my life. So to live is to compose, I guess. I still get very involved in my ideas. Kind of the opera the whole universe of the and these kind of things is kind of, I mean, I see it 30 years, 40 years, then I may be dead, but at least 30 years ahead, like I'm kind of planning for what will happen in 30 years. So it's, yeah, but I mean, it's on different levels. It's I still have a big urge to, I mean, it's things I want to say, I want to express, but it's also on a smaller level. I like to put two notes together and see what happens. This very small work also that that I love, you know.
Got it. And how new music scene, right, or contemporary art music scene changed during this century in Scandinavia?
During this century, as
yes, during this century.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, of course, we totally lost the connection with, let's say, the public sphere.
Yes.
I mean, Norway it's almost nothing at all on the main broadcasting, on the former big newspapers. This kind of it's almost zero. On the other hand, it's a bigger scene. It's more concerts than ever. I think the activity is really, really high. The festivals are actually very good, I would say. It's a lot of interesting people. Yeah, so it's, I mean, and then this thing called internet has happened, which kind of democratized the field a little bit. So it's, but also fragmented the field a little bit. So it's hard to say. It's kind of lack the kind of common discussion about new music.
Mm-hmm.
It's also been a policy in, let's say, the Composers Union and these kind of things. I don't know how important it is as an institution for art making. It's important for workers' union and things and these kind of things. But there is a policy to open up, to have different genres, to have more people in. So it's a kind of broadening of the field, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And audience, how audience change?
What audience?
Yes.
I think, I mean, Norway is also broader. I think it's and it's okay. It's quite good audience actually. It's quite a lot of people who somehow still want to participate in this.
And what are, let's say, main trends, right, in new music in Scandinavia, where it goes, right?
As I said, I mean, it's also hard to see your contemporary. I mean, maybe things that you don't really see so clearly is the important things, and maybe what gets a little bit of attention doesn't seem so important in a few years.
Yes.
But I think this, of course, this interdisciplinary thing, because I work with this myself, I see quite a lot of younger composers who seem very interested in this, and for whom it's really natural
Yes.
way of creating.
Yes.
I see from the younger, it's a lot of kind of expression of themselves somehow. It's a little bit individualistic in that was a half critique to the younger generation. Yeah, it's kind of obsessed with their own body or own maybe mental state, these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's again a broadening, more freedom in relating to different styles, to pop music, to no demands from the history of contemporary music so much. Very little interest for systems and these kind of things. I don't know. This is just what I'm teaching quite a lot now. So this is a little bit how I see a lot of students now.
Got it. Got it. What is the role of new music in Scandinavian societies?
I think I have to say that the role is not so big. Yeah, as I said, it's not really part of public life. It's but it's happening, and the important thing is to make good works, and
Yes.
I hope good works will stay somehow. And to produce interesting ideas is always valuable. But I mean, for the society in big, it's I think it represents maybe a kind of an alternative, a possibility for different thinking. I hope.
If we would meet in 20 years, right? Would there will be like a new music scene in Scandinavia?
20 years is, I mean, it's not so long, maybe. I mean, if the world still exists and these kind of things. But I'm afraid I'm rather a pessimist in in many ways. Yeah, what do you think? I mean, how for example, the digitalization and the internet is affecting the human race? I don't know. I think the ability to concentrate, the ability to really study something hard, I can't understand other things other than that this will be somehow diminished. I mean, the ability to listen to a 1-hour piece, like structural hearing, as Adorno said, you know, I mean, I feel it myself, you know, I have this go from piece to piece. I try with all energy to go against it in my life. Like here in Sweden, I can cut off the internet for long times, these kind of things, and then my abilities are better for just concentrating and listening and perceiving. But when the general push in society is so much towards this, and of course people earn money, the less concentrated we are. So I have to say I'm rather a pessimist for art in the future.
Got it.
But it will be young people that find a solution, maybe. I hope.
And then the last question. And the last question is, what would be your 3 suggestions to, let's say, to younger generation of composers, right? What would you suggest them?
3 suggestions?
3 suggestions, then.
Get off the internet.
Okay, one.
Read books.
Second.
Have courage. Courage is the most important skill, and it has to be trained. Yeah, you have to train your courage, compositional courage, every day. Yeah. Those 3 things.
Yes, thank you very much for this brilliant conversation.
Thank you so much.